I spent $10,000 helping build her dream life. But while I was saving for our future, she was in another man's bed, so I exposed her in front of her family and left her speechless. I was 26, born and raised in Texas, when I met her during a tech conference in Austin. She was visiting from Los Angeles, full of ideas, passion, and a kind of energy that drew everyone in. We clicked almost instantly, and even though we lived in different states, we decided to give it a try. Long distance was never the plan, but somehow, with her, it felt worth it. We started off strong. Texts every morning, long calls every night, weekend video dates where we'd watch the same movies and laugh at the same scenes. We talked about the future a lot. She told me she wanted to start her own wellness brand, and I could see how serious she was. I believed in her. I wanted to be part of that future. She always said, "This isn't just my dream, it's ours." So I started helping, not just with words, but with real support. When she needed a laptop for her work, I got it for her. When she said she was struggling to pay rent and still work on her brand, I sent her money. I paid for her website design, bought her a professional camera, sent her gear and supplies. Over time, I spent over $10,000 helping her build this dream life she said we'd share. I never saw it as a loss. I thought I was investing in our future. While I was saving money, cutting back on my own wants, skipping trips with friends, she was out there, pretending. The first signs were subtle. Her messages started coming later and later. She stopped sending photos like she used to. Our calls got shorter. She said she was busy, stressed, tired. I believed her. I trusted her. Then one night, I got a message from a mutual friend who lived in LA. He told me he saw her at a bar, getting real close with some guy. Said it didn't look like just friends. I brushed it off. I didn't want to believe it. But then I noticed the same guy in one of her Instagram stories. Just a glimpse. Just a laugh. But it was enough to make my stomach drop. I decided to visit her as a surprise, to prove to myself that everything was fine. I told her I was busy that weekend, but I showed up anyway. When I got to her place, I used the spare key I had, the one she gave me, in case of emergency. What I walked into still haunts me. There she was, in bed with him, half-dressed, laughing, like I didn't exist. She froze when she saw me. He tried to cover up, ask who I was. She just sat there, speechless. I didn't yell. I didn't cry. I just looked at her and said, "I spent $10,000 helping you build a life you were sharing with someone else." I left without another word. But I wasn't done. I collected every receipt, every bank statement, every message where she promised this was for us. I put it all together and sent it to her family, the ones she said were so proud of her journey. I told them I wanted nothing back, but they deserved to know the truth. Her dad called me later that night. He didn't say much, just apologized. She tried to reach out after that. She texted, called, left voicemails, said she made a mistake, said she was confused, said it didn't mean anything. But I was done. I blocked her number, deleted every photo. I walked away while she watched everything fall apart. And I don't regret a thing. After I walked out that night, I felt like the ground beneath me had shifted. The woman I had spent years loving, trusting, and investing in emotionally, financially, and mentally, had thrown it all away for a cheap thrill. I drove back to Texas in silence, the miles blurring past as my thoughts swirled in a storm of anger, pain, and numbness. I didn't cry, not then. I think a part of me had been dying for a while, slowly, quietly, as she drifted further and further away. But that night was the final blow. The moment I saw her in that bed, wrapped up with another man, something inside me just snapped. Not loudly, not violently. It was like a flame that suddenly went cold. For days, I stayed inside my apartment, phone off, curtains drawn. I needed time to process everything. Not just the betrayal, but the fact that I had been so blind. I replayed every conversation, every smile, every "I love you" she had whispered over the phone. I questioned myself. Was I not enough? Was I too trusting? Too naive? But then, slowly I realized no. I wasn't the fool. I was the one who gave everything with a clean heart. She was the one who took and lied straight through her teeth. I started picking up the pieces. I went back to work with a new focus. My boss noticed the change almost immediately. I was sharper, more driven, more determined. I threw myself into projects, picked up extra hours, and even started a side hustle helping local businesses with web design. The same skills I used to help her build her fake dream, I was now using to build my real one. And for the first time in a long time, I was doing it all for me. Meanwhile, the fallout on her side was brutal. Word spread fast. Her parents, who had once sent me Christmas gifts and called me family, were absolutely devastated. Her dad sent me a message weeks later, saying he had cut off her funding. Apparently, she was still asking him for money to grow her brand. I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Just knowing that she was now struggling to maintain that lifestyle without my support gave me a quiet, cold satisfaction. She tried again, of course. She sent me long emails, pouring out excuses, blaming stress, saying it was a moment of weakness. She even had the audacity to say she still loved me, that what we had was real. I didn't answer a single one. I didn't owe her closure. She had shattered everything and then expected me to help sweep up the pieces. No, that door was closed, locked, burned to ash. Months passed. I got stronger, happier. I took a solo trip to Colorado, hiked alone through the mountains, watched the sun rise over snowy peaks. I reconnected with old friends. I laughed more, smiled more, and bit by bit, the weight she left behind started to lift. I wasn't just healing, I was thriving. For the first time in years, I felt free. Then one day, almost a year later, I got a message from a friend of hers. Someone I barely knew, but who apparently followed me on social media. She told me my ex was back in town, that she'd broken up with the other guy months ago, that she'd been talking about me a lot, saying I was the one that got away, that she regretted everything. I just smiled, because by then, I had moved on completely. I was dating again, a woman who was genuine, kind, and transparent from day one. We shared everything: goals, insecurities, dreams. She didn't ask for money. She didn't expect me to build her life. We built together, as equals, as partners. One day, I ran into my ex at a coffee shop. Pure coincidence. She was sitting alone, looking tired, distracted, a shadow of the girl I once knew. Our eyes met, and she froze. I gave her a polite nod, nothing more. She stood up, took a step toward me, opened her mouth like she was about to say something, but I just turned and walked away. No words needed. She knew. She had already lost me. And this time, there was no coming back. Weeks passed after that silent encounter at the coffee shop, but the echo of her eyes, that glimpse of regret, the tremble in her lips, the way she didn't even try to apologize properly, stayed with me. Not because I missed her, not because I wanted her back, but because it was the final confirmation that I had won. Not out of revenge, but out of growth, out of peace. She had expected me to still be the man who would drop everything at her feet, who would listen to her excuses, who would let her back in after she shattered me. But that man no longer existed. I had buried him the night I walked out of that apartment. The woman I was with now was nothing like her. She didn't wear a mask. She didn't lie with sweet words or smile while plotting behind my back. She was present, grounded, real. She cheered me on when I got promoted. She helped me design my new apartment. A place that finally felt like home because it held no ghosts, no memories of betrayal, just warmth, just laughter, just us. And every time I looked at her, I knew I had chosen right. Not just her, but myself. I had chosen to walk away from the fire and rebuild something that could never be burned down so easily again. My ex tried one last time a few months later. She sent a handwritten letter to my office, probably because I'd blocked her from everything else. It was 5 pages long, rambling, full of nostalgia, fake humility, and that subtle manipulation she always used to mask her guilt. She wrote about our time together, about missing my energy, about wanting just one conversation. She claimed therapy had changed her. She promised she was a different woman now. But it was too late. The trust was dead. The love had dried up. The version of me who cared enough to answer her had died on that bedside floor in Austin. I didn't respond. I tore the letter in half, tossed it into the shredder, and went out for dinner with my girlfriend that night. We ate tacos under the stars. She laughed at my terrible jokes. I held her hand across the table and thought to myself, this was what real love felt like. Not games, not power plays, not sacrificing my worth just to keep someone happy, but mutual effort, calm, safety, truth. That's what I had now, and I'd never trade it for anything. Eventually, I heard from a mutual friend that my ex had moved away, back to her hometown. Her brand had failed. Apparently, she'd been exposed for faking brand deals and misusing funds from a GoFundMe she started for mental health awareness. The internet turned on her. Sponsors pulled out. People who once worshipped her online now saw through her perfect filters. She became just another story of someone who thought she could play everyone forever. But life caught up. And me? I kept rising. I launched my own business, using the same skills I once used to support her dreams. But this time, it was mine. Every website, every logo, every marketing campaign carried my signature, my integrity, my energy, and it took off. I hired a team. We got featured in local media. I spoke at events, telling young entrepreneurs not just about business but about boundaries, about protecting your peace, about never letting someone dim your light in the name of love. I even told my story once, at a workshop for people recovering from toxic relationships. I didn't name her, didn't get petty, but I shared the journey, from being used, to feeling lost, to walking away. And the applause that night, it wasn't just for surviving. It was for reclaiming my life, for refusing to let her define my future. Years later, I got married, not to her, but to a woman who was nothing like her. Someone who didn't want my money, my clout, or my credit card. Just me, the real me. And as I stood at that altar, looking into eyes that reflected nothing but truth and loyalty, I realized something. That heartbreak had been the best thing that ever happened to me. It had crushed me, yes, but it had also set me free. It had forced me to rebuild, stronger, wiser, unbreakable. And so now, when people ask me what happened between us, the woman who cheated, who lied, who tried to come back after breaking everything, I just smile. I don't need to speak ill of her. I don't need to retell the details. I just say this: she lost me, and I found myself. That's the story. That's the closure. That's the victory. Like the story? Hit that subscribe button. Share it with someone who needs to hear it. And remember, walking away isn't weakness. Sometimes, it's the strongest thing you'll ever do.